when power was in Uganda, all the problems of Uganda was Ugandanized. And Obote's UPC demonized Uganda so much that in 1980, I was 13 years old. DP was stigmatized as a party that was going to revenge on the people of the North for the suffering imposed on the Kingdom of Uganda. The campaigners, instead of talking about policy, were saying, if you vote DP, you are going to carry bricks and rocks and stones all the way to Kampala to build the Lubidi. Who would want to do that? Obviously, I said, no. However bad Obote may be, I think it is better than walking for 380 kilometers carrying bricks on my head. So, when Amin was in power, all the evils of that regime were Nilized. It was stuck on the entire West Nile. When the Okellos came, all the evils of the government were Acholinized. So you hear, Abacholi, Abacholi. Right now, all the evils perpetrated by individuals have been Nyankolinized. So, DP is saying we must break that cycle because the consequences will be very bad. And I can talk confidently about that because my mother is from Ngarama Isinjiro. So, this debate is about what is at stake. What is at stake is not who sits in State House, who sleeps. Many people have slept in State House. What is at stake is, can we find a formula for governing ourselves without violence and bloodshed? We must break that cycle, and DP has its proposal. It may not be the right one, but at least we have had the courage to say, okay, here it is on the table. Let's examine it. So, give us the hindsight, give us the insight. Out of that, we hope will emerge the foresight. So, Uganda, there's discontent with the status quo. We are facing what in English is called a conundrum. What is a conundrum? A conundrum is a crisis without an alternative. It doesn't mean the alternative does not exist, but it's a crisis without an obvious alternative. And the alternative cannot be a person. So our ambition is to put Uganda first. So DP will not let circumstances push us over a precipice into a new dispensation that we don't have the reins of in our hands. Will the post-Museveni Uganda come through a plunge or through a plan? Imagine President Museveni as a man on a tree. And many people say, calm down. There are those who are saying, even if it means cutting down the tree, he must come down. Those are the ones we call the regime change fundamentalists. Some of us are saying, he can come down, why don't we make a ladder? The ladder will serve two purposes. For him to come down, but also for the one who must go up to also climb peacefully and go there. And yet we will still have our tree called Uganda. The politics of every politician appealing to the most radical of their political bases is not sustainable. Let us build a broad center, because when you are governing, you need everybody. Because of our kind of politics of winner take all, DP is even proposing changes in how we elect. That's how we come with the idea of proportional representation. We think it can overcome. Said something in passing which is fundamental, that you cannot have democracy without Democrats. Everybody wants change, but nobody wants to change themselves. So today, we are continuing our conversation. We have taken initiative, and whenever you take initiative, you are bound to have people who agree with you and those who disagree with you. The former British Prime Minister Tony Blair said there are three types of people in politics. The first are those he called the doers, those who do things, those who don't just stand idly by. The second group are those he called the reactionaries, those who are always reacting to what the doers are doing. And then the third group he called the commentators, those who are always commenting on what the doers and reactionaries are doing or saying. I want to count myself firmly in the corner of the doers. I'm not always right, but I'll never accept to be a victim of anything. So, in my opening remarks, I have two main points. The first is that Uganda needs what we call in the Luo language a kachoke madit, which means a big meeting to build consensus and to arrive at an understanding. Understanding means you are clear about where you agree and where you disagree. In Uganda today, some people disagree, and when you ask them, what exactly are you disagreeing with? They can't actually state it. Others are disagreeing with persons. My second point is that we need big picture thinking in Uganda. In the Democratic Party today, a party that many people actually have chosen to misunderstand and misrepresent. We have resolved to take charge of our own destiny. And whatever we are doing continues to evoke serious debate. I think we are the most talked about political party in Uganda today because of what we are doing. Many people actually do not know the Democratic Party. Even in this room today, some people did not know that we even have a chairman of a local government of Kasanda district, a district which is near Mubende and Midiana. We call him the economic general. Chairman Zimura is right without fail. People do not know that actually we have very many councillors and mayors spread around the country. Today when I introduced the mayor of Pade Town Council, where is Fearless Kilama? I don't know where he has gone. The drivers of these are first the indisciplined opportunists who put their personal interest before that of the party. The second are the provincially minded elements who don't believe in building a strong national party. These are two pillars of weaknesses within our party. So our party is split between the nationalists and the provincialists. And when they open their mouths, you can even put them in those two boxes instantly, within the first 30 seconds of whatever they say. You can immediately determine and say, this is a provincially minded person, or this one believes that DP is actually a national party. Many people continue to ask me, why are you still committed to fighting all those battles in the DP? Today I'll give you the answer. Number one, we have a young generation of DP leaders that we are consciously growing. And by the time they take charge, they must find when we have fought all the battles. We will have the scars and wounds on our bodies, but we must give them a party. So, elite consensus must be grounded on objectives of that consensus. So you cannot discuss consensus without discussing the objectives. As DP, we have always been trailblazers. We now have multi-party democracy. Many people do not know that it is DP that fought to have multi-party democracy. We now enjoy forming political parties. But most people do not know that it is our leaders, Dr. Paul Semogerere, Honorable Zachary Olum, and the Honorable Rainer Kafile, who went to court, and the court opened the door to multipartyism. Even the DPs themselves spend more time attacking the DP leadership than talking about what DP has contributed to Uganda and what DP has stood for. We are the ones who democratized the process of electing members of the East African Legislative Assembly. Previously, the ruling party, the NRM, and the leading opposition party in parliament, the FDC, would simply share the 9 seats. NRM takes 6, and the FDC takes 3, and the speaker comes to the floor of parliament with a list, and then reads out the list and then says, I put the question that the following members are elected Uganda's representatives in the East African Legislative Assembly. Will those in favor say aye, to the contrary, no? And the MPs say aye. Then they go to Arusha. After the elections of 2011, myself and the DP Vice President now, Fred Mukasambide, went to visit the Right Honorable Mama Mbabazi. Even that visit itself was considered controversial. Honorable Mama Mbabazi used to sit at Conference Center, which is now known as Serena. Unknown to us, some of our DP leaders were in Serena and they saw us entering Mama Mbabazi's office. They immediately called the party Secretary General, the Honorable, the late now, Matthias Nsubuga, and told him that we have a big problem. The party president has been taken by Mide. I think they have gone to meet the NRM to sell secrets of DP. Or even to do something worse. So Matthias Nsubuga called me. Where are you? I told him, I'm at the conference center, I'm going to meet Mama Mbabazi. Say, I got a call right now that you people are heading there. They told me it is Mbide taking you there. Surprise, surprise, I discovered that Mbide and Mama Mbabazi had never actually ever met. But in the opposition, there is a taboo. There is a culture of political untouchability, that you cannot touch somebody you disagree with. Or if you do so, it must be at night. That's why you hear in one of the political parties, the dirty linen is now all over the place. Because people believe that you must put up a pretense. So when you meet somebody from the NRM, it must be in the dark. We hear stories of men dressed as women in order to hold such meetings. I wonder what sort of country that is. You can't have a country where you have such a toxic political culture. that it is even an anathema to be seen talking to somebody you disagree with. If the disagreement is on principle, why can't that disagreement be known, but it doesn't stop you from meeting? So I told the Honorable Nsubuga why we had gone. I told him we have gone to give Amama Mbabazi an ultimatum. Indeed, we went and gave him an ultimatum telling him, if within 6 months you have not changed the rules of electing members to IALA so that all parties can participate, whether they're in parliament or not, we are going to take you to court. Of course, after 6 months, he had done nothing. So I told Fred Mukasa Mbide to file a case. And the case is Fred Mukasa Mbide and the Democratic Party versus Attorney General and the Secretary General of the East African Community. And we won that case. That is why you can see all the people now parading in Parliament contesting to go to Arusha in IALA. Where we want to go, all we have to do is to set our sails right. Any wind will take us where we want to go. And even the turbulence of the seas will not deter us. So today we expect the following from our resource persons. Hindsight. Where have we been in terms of elite consensus? We had the consensus in Lancaster House, which designed the 1962 Constitution. 4 years down the road, it collapsed. Then we had the Moshi Consensus to design the future of Uganda after the fall of Idi Amin, the one which brought Yusuf Lule. The Moshi Consensus collapsed. Then, right now, we have the Luwero Consensus. The Luwero Consensus was largely a consensus around the guerrilla armies that fought in the Luwero Triangle. It delivered the NRM government. So far, the longest serving government in the history of Uganda. It may be shaky, but it is still there. Now, I can tell you the Luwero Consensus is not sustainable anymore. So, DP's case, because I'm a lawyer. As a lawyer, you say, what is your case? Our case is that Uganda needs a strong consensus. I don't know what that consensus must look like, but my case is that we need a new consensus. Whether with a cooperation agreement, what? You can discuss it until the cows come home, it doesn't matter. But you must answer the question. And that is why, after the hindsight, we now expect our resource person to give us insight into what is happening in Uganda today. You have the so-called standby generator roaring around the country. Then you have the Tobacco Main, you know. Muzei Tobacco Main. And you'd say we have Main Street. That's Main Street of NRM. Then you have the Backstreet Boys. You know, there's a band called the Backstreet Boys. So you have the Backstreet Boys, which is challenging the main street. You know, in Uganda, Kampala Road is the main street. But if Kampala Road doesn't take care of its shop fronts, they allow rubbish, it is not clean, their customer service is poor, then the back street, which is in Nkrumah Road, can easily become main street. Because customers have a choice, they can always decide to choose. So main street can become back street, and back street can become main street. So we need insight into the happenings in Uganda today. Honest insight. You don't have to answer all the questions, but at least you must pose those difficult questions. We have the North-South divide. And that's why DP said we need healing. Every part of Uganda has suffered. And our history, whenever we have violent change, the bloodshed follows the leadership that is exiting. When the Kabaka was president here, the bloodshed collected in Buganda. This is where there was a lot of bloodshed in 1966. It is as if it is a curse to have a president come from your community. Now, when the Obotes, Amin, Okelos were on top of the politics, the bloodshed followed them to our home there in the north. We are still paying the price up to now. Whether you talk about the problem of the Baralo, what, those are just symptoms whose root causes must be investigated. As a party of ideas, as DP, we know that the Baralo were first displaced from Ankole ranching scheme. The rich people who are now in power fenced off the land. So all of a sudden you have people with cows but no land. They started rotating to Bunyoro, they were chased. They went to Maruzi in Lango, they were chased. Since Konyi was no longer there in Acholi, they have now ended up there. But that is not, that's a symptom of a problem. So I get astounded when people don't think beyond the status quo. So today we expect our resource persons to challenge Uganda to think beyond the status quo. This is a long answer to the simple question, why has DP done what it has done? We have done it because we are the party that was there when Uganda was being born. We know Uganda's original sin. Today is the Assumption Day in the church. So, what is Uganda's original sin? We must deal with it foundationally. Like Anna, I also now shut up and go and sit and listen, but there are things I needed to get off my chest. And I think I've gotten them off my chest. To our online audience and those of you who are here, these resource persons are very independent-minded. We thank the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung for sponsoring